Sitting is literally killing you. It is taking years, if not decades, off of your life. Even if you meet a physician's recommended amount of exercise each day, which is usually about 30 to 45 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity, prolonged periods of sitting will still have a negative effect on your overall health. What's the problem? Why is this a problem? So what we have found in studies is that the typical American, of the 15 and a half waking hours that they spend, on average, 9.5 hours is spent sitting. And this means prolonged periods of sitting with no physical activity whatsoever. Why has this happened? What's changed? What's different now about this generation as opposed to past generations? Many of our jobs now are centered around desk sitting jobs. Cell phone usage, computer usage, video games all have a negative contribution to these sedentary habits. Past generations, such as our grandparents or even our parents' generations, were much more physically centered with their occupations and even recreation. So, what's the problem itself? What is it actually doing to us? Several studies have shown that sitting contributes to many negative side effects. Couch time, increased couch time amongst men and women, 34% increased mortality rate amongst men, and a 17% increased mortality rate among women. Additional things, negative things that can happen, muscles atrophy, but also could potentially convert from slow twitch muscle fibers to fast twitch muscle fibers. Slow twitch burns fat, fast twitch burns sugar, meaning our blood actually becomes more dependent on sugar. Additionally, we create insulin resistance, which is a diabetes-like condition which actually allows glucose to accumulate in our blood. Obviously, this all contributes to many of the major risk factors that we're most commonly aware of: cardiovascular disease, metabolic problems such as diabetes and obesity, and it can even contribute to biomechanical problems such as lower extremity injuries from being overweight. So, what can we do to actually make this less of a problem? So, traditionally, physicians would have recommended 30 to 45 minutes of vigorous physical activity each day. This is just common exercise. We're finding that this is not enough. We actually need to find ways to break up these prolonged periods of time of sitting. A few statistics real quick before I get to the actual solution. Sitting commonly for 6+ hours makes you 40% more likely to die within 15 years of someone who sits less than 3. And between 1980 and 2000, exercise rates stayed the same, sitting time increased by 8%, and obesity doubled. So you can see the correlation that occurs there. So how do we solve this problem? So the big thing that we come to find is we have to break up those periods of time of sitting. So about every 30 minutes or so, doing some sort of physical activity which gets your heart rate up can be extremely beneficial. It has that cascading effect in the opposite direction. Instead of you spiraling downward, you start to actually project upwards. You can actually see an increase in electrical activity in muscles. You can actually increase the calorie burning, and you'll actually find that over time you get a decreased resting heart rate and blood pressure. So obviously there's the benefits that we're looking for long-term health, but we really need to start breaking these habits of sitting. We're finding that this is becoming more of a health crisis over time, and hopefully what you have all taken away from this is that we need to actually get up every now and again from our common activities.